Hi folks, it's me Michaela and welcome back to my channel. I am very excited right now because I got some book mail today and I feel like I know exactly what this is because it is currently April 22nd, which means that this lovely little box right here is going to be my copy that I pre-ordered of the newest Emily Henry book. Let's open it up and make sure that I am correct. That was a very unsatisfying pull, but at least I didn't put tape over it this time. This is the thing that Indigo does this all the time with my orders, where they'll have the pull tab so that it's like easy to open, and then they'll like put tape over it. And it's like, what's the point of having the tab, Indigo, if I'm gonna have to cut through a bunch of tape to get to it, you know? Though there is also tape on this, so hold on. Here we go. Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. It's here. I'm so excited. I haven't read all of the Emily Henrys, but I have read Beach Read, and I did read Funny Story last year, which I pre-ordered and I absolutely adored. I loved Funny Story, so I have high hopes for this. This is an Indigo exclusive edition. I have no idea what's exclusive about it, but this is what I'm going to be reading this week. Do I have any idea what this is about? No. I just know that it's Emily Henry and it's new. This is the plan for the next few days, and the plan for this now impromptu reading vlog is to read Emily Henry's new release, Great Big Beautiful Life, and I'll let you know my thoughts on that. So I do have to finish up the book that I'm reading right now, which I think I should be able to finish today. Do I have to finish that book? No, but I'm already currently reading 2 books at the same time, which is like already like out of the norm for me because one of them is a reread, and that's the only time I read 2 books at a time. So I cannot possibly be reading a reread, a new book, and then another new book. That can't be me. I know other people do it, but like I start panicking when I have too many things going at once. So I'm gonna finish the book I'm reading, then I will get into Great Big Beautiful Life and I'll let you know my initial thoughts. Okay, hello. It took me a little longer to finish the other book I was reading than I thought, mostly because like I thought I was farther into that book, so I thought I only had like 100 pages left to read, but I actually had like 200 pages left to read, and there was no way I was reading that in one evening. But I did finish reading my other book and started Great Big Beautiful Life, and like just look at how gorgeous this hardcover is, like the quote that's like underneath it. So cute. Also, like, the bright orange color is just, like, very much giving me spring vibes. Anyway, I'm now, like, about a third of the way through the book, and I'm feeling very, like, neutral about it. Like, it's giving very, like, 3-star right now because it's kind of reading, like, 2 books in one. There's, like, the general fiction literary book of... I guess I should like tell you what the book is about. So the book is following Alice is the POV, and then the love interest is Hayden, and they're both like journalist writers, and they're both kind of like competing against each other to win this never thought to happen memoir of this famous person, Margaret Ives, who's like the daughter of this huge like famous family in publishing that like had a big crazy crash and burn, and then she like disappeared from the world. Okay, so they like found her, and now they're like competing to write her memoir. Fun. So like that's like the premise of it, and I feel like because of that premise, which I do really like, it makes the book feel like it's 2 books. There's the book of like general fiction literary of Alice trying to, you know, like be the one to get signed to write this story, and in the meantime like she's doing interviews, you're learning of Margaret's family history, and that's like all very intriguing and really interesting. And then like the other book is the romance book of like Hayden and Alice, and it's just like giving very disjointed in a way, and I'm liking both, but again like the 2 plots kind of feel very separate from each other. I do also feel like the Alice Hayden thing feels like a tad forced. I generally really like Emily Henry books in how like there's only one POV that you're following, and it's not relying on creating relationships and dynamics and connection of the characters and the relationships through dual POV, which like there's nothing wrong with, you know, having having the two POV romance, but I think like developing like a really solid romance when you only have the one side, the one POV, is just like a very different reading experience. And I think developing those relationships and connections when you only have the one character POV to rely on is like a little harder to do for like making the reader believe it, because obviously you don't have the insights of the other person outside of their dialogue in conversations. And I just feel like the Alice Hayden thing feels like a little forced, because it's like very like grumpy sunshine, and he's all like stone faced cold and like doesn't really want to like have this relationship. And when I say relationship, I mean like any kind of communication. And they kind of just like keep bumping into each other because it's a small town. I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite like I do feel like the chemistry is there, but it just like doesn't really make sense to me why they would at all get together. Like it doesn't seem like they have that much in common. And I also kind of just find Alice annoying, I'm gonna be honest. She's like very peppy, optimistic, extroverted, happy-go-lucky. She wears a lot of like retro 60s kind of stuff, which is like fun. She's like one of those people who's like, oh my god, I woke up and I'm addicted to coffee and I have a headache because I haven't had my coffee yet. That's just like the kind of person she is. And there's something about that just like, I just like don't like her. Like I don't think I would be friends with her. Sorry, Alice. So like I find that like a little hard. Like I just like don't connect with her as much in this book as some of the other like Emily Henry characters that you're reading perspective from in other books. So I've been finding that a little difficult. And like I said, like I'm not like disliking it. Like I feel very neutral about it right now because it's not wowing me, but I also not like I don't want to be reading this. Like I do want to read it. I do want to keep reading. It just feels very like disjointed, like I said. Oh, the other thing is that like they're both tall, and that just keeps like being talked about like all the time, and it's kind of weird to me, like about how he's really tall and she's also quite tall, and how they keep sitting down in booths and their like legs hit each other because they're both just so tall. Why do we keep talking about this? Like, I feel like this is coming up way too much. It's giving the opposite of when romance books are like, she's so tiny, she's so small. Oh, look, she's so little, she's so tiny, she's so small. It's like the opposite of that. And I don't like it when they're like constantly talking about how tiny someone is either, like in a romance book. I'm just like, why are we hyperfixating on the fact that these people are tall or these people are short? Like, I just like don't get it. Like, mention it because it's relevant, you know, like to their description, and then like leave it alone. I don't need it brought up like every other chapter that they're both tall. Like it's weird. It's weird. So my plan is to read some more of this tonight. I'm going to read all of this weekend, I think, because I have been like just kind of eating it up, even though I do feel quite neutral about it. So I'm going to read some more tonight. I'll give you like an update tomorrow morning-ish sometime, and then I'll probably finish it tomorrow, maybe. We'll see. It's the weekend now, so I can read a bunch. I've also been like on a reading kick lately. Like I'm always on a reading kick because I'm always reading, but like the last bit of April I have really been like every moment of my life I want to be reading, and it's really fun. I think it's like the weather has finally turned here in Montreal. Like it's finally starting to feel like spring, and I'm like, oh my god, am I alive? Do I like my hobbies again? Wow. But yeah, those are my thoughts at the time being. Gonna read more, let you know my thoughts when I'm farther into the book. But yeah, right now it's like very like neutral, and I think almost in a way I'm almost liking the general fiction-y kind of plot more than the romance plot at the present moment. Okay. How many times are these people going to be hitting their knees against each other under a table because they're so tall? Why has that happened like 8 times in this book so far? I'm like 2/3 of the way through now, by the way, so almost there. But I'm still just feeling like super on the fence about it, because it's not that it's bad. Like I'm enjoying it, obviously. Like I'm reading it super quickly, I'm getting through it, it's very like bingeable reading, but the whole romance of this book feels like an afterthought. It gives me the impression that Emily Henry wanted to write a light historical fiction about a famous family that like ran like news, but then was like, oh, but I'm a romance writer, so I have to have a romance in the book. The most interesting part of this is the story of Margaret Ives and her family that you're learning, and that feels like the main part of the book, and then it's like the subplot of the romance is the romance. What's up with that? It also is making me mad that it feels like Alice's entire personality is I'm tall and coffee. Okay, there's a scene where they're like spooning on a beach. Just accept it. I'm not going to explain. And she goes, I'm the medium spoon to his big spoon. Girl, not the medium spoon. There's just little and big. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it just... You have to be kidding me. You have to... Medium spoon? Like, please have a personality other than this. And then she's like, oh, it's hot, but it's not too hot for me to be drinking hot coffee because I need my coffee and I drink all the coffee. I can't. It's like very difficult to like this book when Alice is the POV character and I don't like Alice. There's also this line where she claims that like, it's like he smiled and I wanted to climb inside. You wanted to climb inside his... Like, that doesn't make any sense, girly pop. What? Just what? And then also, the whole thing of this romance, okay, between Alice and Hayden, it's supposed to be like very, we can't, forbidden love, will they, won't they, slow burn. That's like the vibes I feel like it's supposed to be giving. But it doesn't make any sense because they're like, we can't because we're competing for the same job. And that gets messy because one of us is going to get it and the other one's not. So we shouldn't do anything until after we find out who has the job because our minds might change. But then, my dude, they keep hanging out, being friends, and then almost getting together, but then being like, we can't. And it's like, I'm sorry, but the physical intimacy is the easiest part of this scenario. If your problem is that it's going to be messy because one of you is going to get this job and the other person is not, the messy part is you guys getting emotionally attached and building the friendship relationship that way, not sex. It doesn't make any sense. Like, their reasoning doesn't make any sense. If they truly were like, we shouldn't, and then they just did the job and then came back and like accidentally would run into each other because it's a small island, like, it makes sense. But they keep like, here's my number, do you want to hang out, do you want to come do this, oh my god, let's go to a diner. That defeats the whole purpose of your whole plan of why you're not together, so just be together already. Doesn't make any sense. It just isn't doing it. And it makes me sad because it's like, I adored Funny Story. Funny Story was like one of my favorite books last year. The premise of it was amazing. The romance was so fun. I loved the characters. And then this is just not that. And it's not that it's bad, it's just that I was expecting it to be so good. I was expecting it to be so good. And I feel like if Emily Henry just wrote a historical fiction that was this plot, it would be really good. It's like I said, like, it feels like two separate books that were just like, just pop those together, that's fine. Just go back and forth between the two plots and it's a one story. And it's like, it's not a cohesive story because the setup for the romance plot is more important and more interesting than the romance plot in the romance book. What's up with that? So, like, I guess that's it. Those are my thoughts after I, like, ramble and rant. But I'm gonna read the last third of this book. And I don't know what I'm gonna do to rate this book because I really like the, like, historical general fiction literary part of it, but I really don't like the romance. But this book was supposed to be a romance, so then, like, how am I supposed to rate the book? How am I supposed to do that? I feel like right now it's probably still at a 3. Like, I wish my thoughts changed, but they haven't. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, like, I just, like... I think the thing is, too, that because of this whole competition thing and it being a romance, you know that, like, either way of who gets this job, that's going to be the third act conflict. And then it's not going to matter because they're going to get a happily ever after ending anyway because it's a romance book. You know? So, like, I feel like I'm reading all of this unnecessarily made up in their little imagination reasonings between these two characters on why they can't be together for, like, no reason. And, like, it also just feels like Alice spends more time with Margaret than she does with Hayden, but, like, the book is supposed to be about that. Like, anyway, I'm just gonna see you when I'm done the book, guys, because, like, I don't know what else to say. I say as I just keep talking. But, like, those are my thoughts. I kind of really wish that we would stop hitting our knees against each other. I really wish we would get a little bit more personality, a little bit more individualism, other than her being optimistic, tall coffee girl and him being I don't even know. Like, I can't even just, like, he's just, like, closed off, emotionally distant, serious man. You and everybody else, my dude. You and all the other men. And now I'm just like, it's making me doubt Emily Henry. Because I haven't read that much. I read Funny Story, loved it. Read Beach Read, loved that. And now I'm reading this. And I'm like, ooh. How do I move on from this? I mean, I have to finish the book first, for start, and then I feel like I would want to read Happy Place because I feel like that one was very well loved, and I feel like that might be more my style, Emily Henry, but this is... And, like, it's not bad. It's not bad. It just feels very disjointed, and it feels like it is wanting to be something else. It really does. It feels very much like this wanted to be a literary fiction book, but then it was forced to be a romance. Okay, see you when I'm done the book! It is done. I have finished reading Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and... no shock at all, I gave it 3 stars. So let's talk about that a bit more, considering my opinion hasn't changed the entire time I've been reading the book. In other news, I made my first iced coffee of the season, iced lavender latte. I started making my own coffee syrups because I came to realize that it's actually very easy. So I make my own lavender syrup. I also have like a brown sugar syrup in my fridge right now. I make like 2 every couple of weeks, so I have 2 options. Sometimes it's the vanilla and the lavender. Sometimes it's the brown sugar and the vanilla. Sometimes it's the lavender and the brown sugar, like what I'm doing right now. Anyway, that is like totally unrelated and you probably don't care. But if you're not making your own coffee syrups, like consider it because it's very easy and does not take that much time, effort, or money. But Great Big Beautiful Life, 3 stars. I think the main thing I had as a problem with this book is that this is a romance book, right? We're all on the same page. Yes, this was told that this was going to be a romance book. This book is in the romance section. This book is a romance. Then tell me why the romance is the secondary plot of the book. Explain that to me, please, because I am not understanding it. And it's not even like the other storyline was bad. I really enjoyed hearing Margaret's story and her family and Alice interviewing her for like the whole month that the book is like taking place during. And I think Emily Henry should just write like a general fiction or like a historical fiction book. I don't think she needed the romance here. And I kind of wish that she, instead of like branching out but then like trying to stay in her romance lane, that she fully just was like, hey guys, I want to write a general fiction, so I wrote a general fiction because it's good and I really like that part of the plot. But because it was like this historical fiction, so you're like diving into the history of the House of Ives, but then the romance was like a present day plot, they never really crossed lines, and because of that it felt like 2 books that were happening in one book. And then also because then you have 2 books happening in the one book, this book felt a tad too long to me. It felt like it should have been about 50 pages less. And honestly, that probably would have been if you just cut out most of the romance. Weird how I think this just shouldn't have been a romance book. I like just didn't really feel that much chemistry between Alice and Hayden. I got really annoyed by the constant mention of them hitting their legs underneath tables because there's just not enough leg room because they're both so tall. And the medium spoon comment. I'm not over that. Yeah, so there's just parts of the romance that just like were not vibing with me. Also, for the last like third of the book, I started to feel like a tiny bit angry at Hayden because he just kind of like refused to trust Alice in knowing herself. Like she would say something and he'd be like, you don't know that. And she's like, no, like I'm sure I will feel this way after this. And then he's like, no, you can't say that. If you are falling in love with this woman, like maybe you should trust her and how she feels. And so that just made me mad. If somebody's telling you something and this is somebody that you're wanting to have like a relationship with, trust them that they know themselves better than you know them. Men, take note. So that was just like something that I just could not get behind. Really dislike that. Also because, as I said before, their whole reasoning for not being together, they're like together the whole book. They just like are saying they're not together when they're together. You're together, okay? But you're just saying you're like not together. You can't be together. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for them to not be together because their logic is extremely flawed in why they can't be. The premise of why they can't be together and the reasoning, especially that Hayden has for that, makes sense. But the reality of their execution of not being together makes no sense. Absolutely zero sense has been made. This is a non-profitable business. So I just couldn't get into the romance. And like I said, I wasn't like a huge fan of Alice. I felt like both of the characters were kind of bland, which is weird because I feel like in Funny Story, I really liked the characters and I thought they felt really real. And in this one, Alice does feel a bit more real because it's like you're reading from her POV, but Alice is quirky journalist, tall girl who likes coffee. And then Hayden is just... I cannot tell you like 3 facts about this man, and tall can't be one of them. Okay, he wears pants. He's also a writer. I mean, that's just his profession. And he eats a lot of salads. He's just a health nut. He is, in fact, a granola mom. And it's just like weird because then the historical fiction plot, I felt like the characters there felt much more real and we were spending much more time with that. But then like the romance, I guess, was supposed to be the main plot line, but it wasn't. I just like couldn't get into it. And I think, like I said, if Emily Henry just wrote this as not a romance, she wrote this as a historical fiction or like general fiction with like light historical, because like you go back in time and it kind of goes to present day, like kind of like Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Not that I'm saying like Emily Henry was trying necessarily to be Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's just like Taylor Jenkins Reid writing is what this plot reminded me of, like Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones. It felt very similar to those story structures, and I've only read those story structures from TJR, so like that's why I said TJR and not necessarily I'm like Emily Henry is trying to be Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like I don't actually think that necessarily. I think that's just like what she was trying to branch out into, and I think it worked really well. And I think she should have just like dove in. I think she should have just been like, I'm not writing a romance, I'm writing a historical fiction, and just like really went for it, instead of trying to keep one foot in romance, because I just think that part of it failed, in my opinion. So I kind of felt like the romance in this was like a 2.5, but the historical fiction part of it was like a 4. So I ended up settling on a 3. I mean, like I kind of thought about giving it 2.5, I'm not gonna lie, but then I thought, no. Because I gave Twisted Love a 2.5, and this was definitely better than Twisted Love, so it's a 3. Hi, I'm back like 2 minutes later because I realized I forgot to totally mention how I felt about the end of this book. So I just wanted to like very briefly come back to say that the end of this book was also like a bit of a disappointment for me, just because I was reading it and I was like, okay, getting pretty close to the end here, and there hasn't been the third act conflict. So like, when is that gonna happen? Because also like you kind of have an idea going into it, like when in the plot the conflict is gonna have to happen, because it's kind of laid out like once this like audition period is over, you know, like one of them is gonna get the job, the other one's not. So that's obviously where like the third act conflict is going to land. So I'm reading the book and I'm getting to that point in the plot where I'm like, that's coming up soon, really soon. And then I'm looking at like how many pages of this book is left, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like enough pages. And I was correct, because this book, everything like blew up so close to the end, and then like everything ended up getting resolved on like 2 pages, and then it was like over. When did that happen? Like, it felt like we got to the end of this book and we were like, oh wow, this book is getting kind of long, guys. Okay, like wrap it up. Boop, 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 boop. We all know they're gonna be together and happy, so let's just get to it, and scene. And then the book ended and I was like, what's up with that? So I just kind of like wanted to jump in and add that as well. I kind of felt like the ending of the book was a bit lackluster. And with romance books, I don't necessarily want it to be a super long time. Like, I don't think you need to have like 40, 50 pages of the book that is resonating resolution and happy ending. I don't think that at all. I think like, you know, like a couple chapters is fine enough in an epilogue, you know, like it can be 20 pages, 15 pages, but this really felt like it blew up and then we like sat in that for like barely any time, and then it got fixed in like 2 pages, and then there was another like 2 pages that were like, everybody's happy, the end. And I just like finished the book and I was like, somehow this book was too long and not long enough. Yeah, back to like me from 5 minutes ago now, I guess, because I've been yapping. But those were like my thoughts on Great Big Beautiful Life. I keep feeling like it's a Great Big Beautiful Life, but it's not. It's just Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I'm really glad I read this like right as it was coming out, because I think as I was reading it, I kind of stumbled across some other people's like general vague feelings about it. And I think like I felt like kind of similar with those. And I was like, if I saw a whole bunch of these, I think it would have like really affected my personal like rating. It like would have influenced it. So I'm glad I read this like right away, so I can be like, I'm on top of things. I'm on the ball. Guys, I read a book the week it released. I never do this. I'm so proud of myself. There we go. Great Big Beautiful Life. If you've read this book yet, let me know what you thought. Did you have like very similar thoughts to me? Did you disagree with me completely? You absolutely loved it? Did you absolutely hate it? Do you plan on reading it after seeing this? Do you maybe no longer plan on reading it? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you happen to like the video, make sure to give it a like, give it a little thumbs up. Happen like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. And with that, I will see you in the next one, guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. Bye bye.